So today we are on page 4 in our Unit 7 packet. We are multiplying monomials times polynomials. So to multiply a monomial and a polynomial, you simply distribute the monomial to the polynomial. For exponents, let's remember what we did in the last unit for the exponent rule. So if you have an x to the a times x to the b, you'd keep the base and add the exponents, a plus b. So for example, if you have an x on the outside of the parentheses here, we're going to distribute it into the parentheses. And x to the 1 times x to the 1, those are little invisible 1 exponents. If you don't see an exponent, there's an invisible 1 there. You add those exponents and get x to the 2 power. And then x times 4 is just 4x. Remember, the coefficient always goes first, the x goes second. All right, we're distributing the whole thing, 5m to the third, once, twice, 3 times. So we have 5 times 3, which is 15. M to the third times m squared, you add those exponents and get m to the 5th. Remember, this m over here has an invisible 1 exponent. So we have minus, bring over the 5 because it's 5 times the invisible 1 there. And then m to the third times m to the first is m to the 4th. And then 5m to the third times minus 7 is minus 35 m to the third. So if there's nobody to multiply with, you just carry it over. So let's do some more examples. And let's remember our final answers must be in standard form. So k times k is k squared, because this is really k to the first and k to the first. And then k times minus 9 is minus 9k. And let's do number 2. 9a to the first times a to the first would be 9a squared. Remember, we're distributing to both terms. And 9a times 1 is just 9a. Because anything times 1 is itself. All right, this is negative 6p. It's really p to the first power, and we're distributing to both terms here. So negative 6 times the invisible 1 in front of the p to the 4th is negative 6. And then p to the first times p to the 4th is p to the 5th. Remember to add those exponents. And then careful, we have a negative times a negative, which is positive or plus. 6 times 8 is 48. And then p to the first power, or you can just write it as plain p. 3c to the 5th times negative 2c and times negative 5. Let's see, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. C to the 5th times c to the 1st would be c to the 6th. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And then just carry over the c to the 5th because he has no one to multiply to. So negative 4g squared times 2g would be negative 8g to the 3rd power, because this g has the little invisible 1 there. And then negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. And g squared, because he has no one else to multiply to, so we just carry him over. All right, x to the first power times x squared is x to the 3rd power. X to the first times minus x to the first is minus x squared. And then x times 3 is plus 3x. Negative 3n times n squared. This n has an invisible 1 exponent, so negative 3n to the 3rd power. Negative times a negative is positive 6n squared, because it's n to the first times n to the first is n squared. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. And we're going to carry that n over because he has no one else to multiply to. So negative 2x to the 4th Remember, we're distributing to every term here. So negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. X to the 4th times x squared. Let's add those exponents and get x to the 6th. A negative times a negative is positive, so plus 24. This x has an invisible exponent of 1, so 4 plus 1 makes it x to the 5th power. And then 18 times negative 2 is negative 36, and x to the 4th, because he has no 1 to multiply to. And then p squared times p to the 5th is p to the 7th. Q to the 3rd times q squared is q to the 5th. Minus, remember this p and this q have invisible 1 exponents. So p to the 3rd, q to the 4th. You're going to add 1 onto each of those exponents. 3x to the 1, y to the 1 times x squared would be 3x to the 3rd, y to the 1st. You can put the 1 exponent if you want. Plus 3x to the 1st times x to the 1st is x squared. Y to the 1st times y to the 1st is y squared. Plus 3x y to the 3rd, because y to the 1st times y squared is y to the 3rd. All right, 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. R squared times r squared is r to the 4th. S squared has nobody to multiply to, so we just carry him over as s squared. 5 times 3 is 15. This r has an invisible 1 exponent. This s has an invisible 1 exponent. So r squared times r to the 1st is r to the 3rd. S squared times s to the 1st is s to the 3rd. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. R squared times nothing is r squared. It's the invisible 1. S squared times s squared is s to the 4th. 3ab times 4a squared. 3 times 4 is 12. A to the 1st times a squared is a to the 3rd. And then the b. 3 times minus 7 is minus 21. Bring over the a, because he has no 1 to multiply to. And b to the 1st times b to the 3rd is b to the 4th. So negative 7 times 9 is negative 63. C to the 3rd times c squared is c to the 5th. D squared times d squared is d to the 4th. Negative 7 times negative 4 is positive 28. C to the 3rd times c to the 1st is c to the 4th. D squared times d to the 5th is d to the 7th. 10 times negative 2 is negative 20. M to the 4th times m to the 1st is m to the 5th. N to the 1st times n to the 3rd is n to the 4th. Plus 30 m to the 4th n squared. N to the 1st times n to the 1st is n squared. This time we're distributing, and then we're going to simplify. So we have negative 2x times 3x is negative 6x squared. Negative 2 times negative 4 is plus 8x plus 7x, just bringing it down. And now to combine like terms, plus 8x plus 7x are like terms. The x squared doesn't have anybody to combine with, so we're just going to bring him down. And then plus 15x. 5w times negative 7w is negative 35w squared. Because w to the 1st times w to the 1st is w squared. And then 5w times 3 is plus 15w. Careful, we're distributing the negative 2, the negative sign with the 2, to the 13 and the negative 9w squared. So we have negative 26w plus, because a negative 2 times negative 9 is positive 18, w to the first times w squared is w to the third. Now careful, we're looking for standard form so that w to the third goes first. So 18 w to the third. Now let's go down in exponent order. So minus 35 w squared. And now we have some like terms here to combine with our plain w's. So 15 minus 26 is minus 11w.